Good afternoon, and once again, welcome to VetNet. My name is Jason Dozier, Manager of Plans and Operations here at Hire Heroes USA, and I'm joined by two of our veteran transition specialists. We have Jordan Castagna out in the Atlanta area Alpharetta office, and we have Walter Serrano out in San Diego. Is that correct, Walter?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, somewhere in Southern California. But as you can see, we are a national organization. We have 7 offices nationwide, including Los Angeles, San Diego. We have offices in Colorado Springs, Raleigh, Seattle area, Plano, Texas. And we work with veterans all around the country and all around the world, actually. We just had a team come back from Ramstein, Germany, and Lakenheath, England, conducting workshops out there. And in particular, when we teach our workshops, we do classes on resume writing, interviewing, networking, the whole 9 yards of what you need to do to be successful in your job search as a civilian. And a lot of that training we also do online through our remote service delivery program. So if you or any other veterans out there, or know any veterans out there that are looking for employment assistance, please just go to our website, hireheroesusa.org, and register for services. And one of our veteran transition specialists, like Walter, like Jordan, will reach out to you and get you squared away on your resume, get you squared away on your LinkedIn page, and your networking skills. And that way, 10 years from now, if you're not using our services, then you know what to do and know what right looks like and know how to be successful in your job search. With that being said, our VetNet program, we've been doing it for about 2 years now. We do this every other week on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And same thing with our workshops. Our classes include resume writing, interviewing, networking. We have a whole class about LinkedIn. And our classes are posted onto YouTube at the end. So if for whatever reason you missed something, feel free to go to our YouTube channel at VetNet Basic Training Track and subscribe to that channel and watch our older videos. But with that being said, without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jordan and Walter.
Thank you. So a little bit about me, my background. I was started with Hire Heroes late May, early June timeframe, and my background includes 4 years in the infantry with the Marine Corps, and then after I chased my bachelor's and my master's at the Azusa Pacific University in Azusa, California, and that's just a little bit about me.
All right, thanks. My name is Jordan. I am a military brat. Both of my parents served and have recently both retired, so they're more than happy to be retired and be done. My dad has a very healthy beard that he was not able to have in the service, so he's fat and happy. And I have been at Hire Heroes since about July. Done a few workshops, had a few more things under my belt, so really enjoyed it so far, and I'm happy to be in the veteran space. Let me pull up. So with resume writing and kind of focusing on resumes in general, this will go over your experiences and kind of how to highlight your value and target your career objectives. That way you can have the most effective resume. And with that, there are multiple types of resumes to consider. I'll touch on federal resumes first, simply because when registering for our services, we do have volunteers that can help kind of revamp and enhance your federal resumes. However, working with your veteran transition specialist, you will have to let them know that, because there is a good weight on it, simply because it's a very specialized field. And we won't be speaking about them much today. What we will be talking about are chronological and functional resumes. Chronological resumes are your very standard traditional resume that lists out your experiences by their job title and the years or time you've spent there. Functional resumes tend to focus more on your areas of skills and expertise. There are different reasons to utilize either setup. I personally like functional resumes. I like them for people who have been in the military for a long time or who have had multiple different roles in the military. I also like it for career changes. If you have experience in a certain field from maybe 15, 20 years ago but want to get back into that field, functional resumes can help you get into that without dating yourself, which may end up having some employers kind of looking upon it negatively. However, with that being said, chronological resumes are very traditional, and they are the industry norm. They're pretty much the norm everywhere. So some hiring managers may not look as fondly on functional resumes, and they may think that you're trying to hide some sort of employment gaps. Walter, have you seen a time where you preferred one or the other?
Yeah, I was actually gonna cut in and butt in and actually mention that a lot of my spouses like resumes, since they've been at home as the caregiver. Most of the time, they have a certain gap in employment there, so you don't want to use a chronological type of resume at that point. You would want to try to de-emphasize on the year and time frames, and kind of just emphasize on their work experience and skills. So yeah, I definitely have used my fair share of both, but again, a functional would be nice for those who have a decent gap in their employment.
Perfect. Thanks. Okay, kind of going through the resume sections, we have it broken down into the heading, summary qualifications, your area of expertise, which is right underneath that professional summary. And then following that is your professional experience, whether that is listed in chronological or functional setup. And then, again, that being followed with your education and any additional certifications or technical skills that you may have and want to showcase that are relevant to the position. Diving a little bit deeper into that, your professional summary is a very good overview of your expertise. It should reflect what's in your professional experience and your work history. It should highlight the most important things and be able to showcase what you really excel at and have had tremendous success at. This is where you want to hit your big numbers. You want to talk about your kind of the fields that you're most interested in, that you've had experience in, and give a good overview of what's to come in the rest of the resume.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that this is the golden area where technically your resume should be top-heavy in a sense, where everything has to be pinpoint, perfect, and like show the greatest emphasis in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And there have been multiple studies that show that hiring managers will only look at a resume for 6 to 10 seconds. With that being said, your eye automatically focuses on the top and center of a resume, which is why your summary is right there at the beginning with key items bolded, like any sort of education or your military background. Any big numbers can be bolded. You don't want to go bold happy, but it is important to kind of highlight those things. And also in that area are those 6 to 9 bullet points that have your big keywords.
I actually had my biggest problem starting my resume is not wanting to list my achievements, but this is the perfect area to highlight your biggest numbers and your biggest achievements in order to, get that hiring manager's eyes right on that beginning professional summary.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of going through the nitty-gritty and details of everything is that in your heading, I personally will never put my home address. I will always do city, state, and zip. I don't know if it's that military security type thing in me that is a little cautious or even nervous of the fact that I don't think people really need my exact address. Most hiring managers are looking at this to gain some insight on what your commute would be like and if it's even feasible to hire you. And if you're looking to relocate, it's never a bad idea to put the city that you're going to relocate to in that section because some hiring managers may kick you out of the pool simply because they can't afford to relocate you, not knowing that you are willing to relocate yourself.
Yeah, I was going to add that definitely when applying to this position here at Hire Heroes USA as a veteran transition specialist, my address was technically 44 miles away from the actual office. And knowing LA traffic, and I was driving more inland towards where everybody was headed, I was definitely going to encounter some traffic. So at that point, I was questioned in the interview, are you sure about this commute and being there on time and stuff like that? So I definitely had to kind of explain myself. But I mean, I use my address. I know certain veterans that I've worked with choose not to and just use, again, the city and zip instead of their full address. So it just depends on the individual. But just know that either way, you're probably going to be questioned in a sense. They'll probably want to know.
Exactly. This is also where you want to list your phone number. Please list a phone number that you will readily answer. Also, make sure that your voicemail is professional, and the name that you use in your voicemail should be the same name that's on your resume. So one of the veterans I've worked with, his name is Ezekiel, but he goes by Zeke. And those are pretty similar, so most people would assume that you have the correct person, but as a hiring manager, if you don't know who you're talking to, you're not going to extend them an offer or ask them in for an interview if you can't make sure that it is who you're looking for. Same thing goes with emails. Gmail is the professional standard at this point, so it's never a bad idea to create an individual email account that has a professional first, last name at Gmail, first dot last name, anything that initials, something that works for you that that can function as a job sourcing email address. It helps organize things, and it also is professional, and that's what you want to get across. I would also avoid any numbers that have to do with birth years. If you're relatively young or fresh out of school, or maybe a little bit more senior in your field, you may end up having some of those biases against you, and you want to avoid that at all costs. And then lastly, LinkedIn. Create the short link, customize the URL so it is linkedin.com/yourname, or something that is close to your name, first initial, last name, anything that, again, is professional. And have that on there because 90% of recruiters will look you up on LinkedIn, and they will appreciate that you've made it easy for them because they have the softwares to find you and search for you, and they can search for you through LinkedIn, but this makes it easier for them.
Yeah, I definitely want to add the professional email. I've seen my fair share of emails working with Hire Heroes USA, and I've seen some crazy ones, and definitely try to go ahead and kind of strategically tell them, hey, let's get a different email put in there, a professional one, instead of soups and sandwiches 35 at yahoo.com and stuff like that. Not to make fun of the individual. I have my kind of my last name /MOS or some motivated names and stuff like that, but I use those for like browsing purposes, stuff like that. It's not my actual professional email. It's more of a personal one that you have. And then the LinkedIn, definitely have that short URL. And if you are going to be including that LinkedIn profile, at least make sure that you've used it in the last, I guess, week, and not like a matter of 8 months ago. You definitely want to have an updated profile to it there with a professional photo. But I mean, that's a different topic that we could go into way later, different course on that.
Okay, and just kind of going back into that professional summary now that it's zoomed in for you and you can kind of see it a little bit better, you can see how we've utilized and bolded certain items. Your title or the title that is most relevant to what you would like to go into is bolded. That's supposed to stand out. It's supposed to be a heavy hitter. Your security clearance, especially if it's necessary for the role, it will never hurt you. It can only help you. And then any reason or way that your career has been supported by education or certifications or even hands-on training and facilitating the role is extremely helpful there and will also be folded. Yeah,
I was
go ahead.
actually going to add something. I was reading somewhere on Deloitte on one of their websites, and they did emphasize if you did earn like a certification to use it as part of your title, even if it's not the job title, but like the job title you're applying to plus, let's say, project management professional because you actually got certified in it. It's always nice to highlight that in the bold too, just to make sure it kind of pushes the fact that if you earn that certification, you are considered, for example, the project manager professional.
Absolutely, and those things should be reflected in your areas of expertise as well. Those 9 bullet points should be reflections of what is in your summary and what is also in your professional experience. So you can see in this example we've used strategic planning, project management, records maintenance, leadership and training. These are all kind of keywords and heavy hitters that will that applicant tracking systems will be using to find you. And those are really important to have very clear. The worst thing that can happen is that you send a resume and the person looks at it and doesn't even understand what you want. This kind of helps narrow and focus that in a little bit more, as well as highlight your expertise. Oh, and a quick, sorry, a quick, easy way to think about things that should go there is filling in the blank on I'm an expert in blank. So this isn't an area that you would want to put honorable or trustworthy or anything like that. Those are all character qualifications and character examples, and this is something that is a concrete, evidence-based expertise. Okay, and then this is kind of the main difference between the chronological and functional resume. You can see that on the left, my left, should be everyone's left. On the left is the standard chronological resume. It lists the corporation or the company, the role, and the years, and it's listed in the most recent first, following into the farthest back. You don't want to list more than 10 to 15 years of experience. It just isn't quite necessary, and considering that most people don't want to backtrack in their careers, it's not going to help that you put a lower level position in your resume than what you're actually currently at. And then on the right, we have the functional resume, which is broken out farther into those areas of expertise. So project management, the bullet points underneath that are to support their skills in project management. Leadership and supervision, it's the same thing. And then personally, what I like to do at the end of a functional resume, if there aren't any like work employment gaps, I will list work history, just so they can see that there aren't any gaps and there's nothing kind of fishy going on. I'm not trying to hide anything, but this is, for me, that was the best way to highlight my expertise. I personally have a functional resume because I think it speaks best to my areas of expertise, but there are plenty of times where I see that chronologicals are better use of a template and a format. Okay, and then moving on to professional experience, this is really highlighting, you want to highlight any data points you can. So if you can use numbers, if you can show how many people you've led, if you can show dollar amounts on things, even if it's, you know, a lot of people want to think about dollars, which is wonderful, but some things aren't quantifiable in dollars. My role is not quantifiable in dollar amount. But I can go through and say that I have worked with over 100 veterans on their resumes, and I've worked in, you know, so many different workshops, and you want to quantify the things that are in your professional experience. Also be careful if you've been in the same field or the same role, but have moved up in those roles, not to be repetitive. So, for example, if I moved on into a role farther here, I wouldn't want to put that I helped 100 veterans twice. It's just not necessary. Anything else to add?
Yeah, I want to go ahead and push. When we're using numbers, we also don't want to overly exaggerate. You never know the individual hiring you, their background, stuff like that, if they know, and they're looking at these numbers and you're over-exaggerating. So you want to make it close as possible to the truth of stuff that you've managed, of money you've managed, of year that you've been accounted for, stuff like that. You don't want to push the numbers too high. I mean, numbers are great, but just try to keep it in line to what you actually, what your job description and what you actually took care of while you worked.
Yeah, definitely. Great point. Okay, and going into the actual setup of the professional experience, this is typically the way that we will break it down. We will start by having the company, location, and the duration in a chronological resume. And then underneath that, you'll have your title. Both of those will be bolded to kind of highlight who you are and where you've been. Beneath that, you can use a description role, or description of the role, which kind of explains your broad spectrum of that specific role. And then accomplishments would be beneath that, which is your numbers and things that can back up your experiences. The one thing I will say is that, I mean, this is fairly straightforward, but one thing I will say is that if you're going to use a description of the role in one, you have to use it in all, because it's a consistency thing. So if you're going to use it in one, make sure you can do it in all, and if you can't do it in all of your roles, then I would turn those things into additional bullet points on your accomplishments, so they have an idea of what your task actually was.
I definitely agree with that. Definitely showing the uniformity on all sides. The description in 2 sentences, follow through and do it on every position you've held. If not, then straightforward, just put your job title and then under it your main accomplishments or achievements you've done within that organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And then translating military skills, this can be difficult, and that's why we're here. So I definitely highly recommend registering for services, just because while we're going through all of this, you'll also be able to have this one-on-one with a veteran transition specialist who can help you kind of translate these things. In this example, they mentioned successfully performed patrols in combat, which resulted in 50 enemy KIA and secured 15 HVPs. Civilians don't know what this means. They may know what KIA means, but you also may not want to mention anything related to killing in general. It can scare people away. Most people who understand it would respect it, but if they don't understand it, you may end up with some biases against you. And the way we kind of turned that around was by actually using superior security operations management skills, led and conducted over 100 combat patrols over a 12-month period in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, which resulted in the capture of 15 most wanted enemy combatants. This shows strategic planning, project management. It shows a lot more than what the initial statement did, and it also doesn't, it's not going to create any fear in anybody's mind.
The destruction of these 3 high-rises.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. Coming from an infantry background, it was really difficult because that's the only background I had to either mention that or the education that I had. So I definitely seeked assistance in translating everything, but there is definitely a lot of management skills, strategic planning while going out on missions and stuff like that, and being accountable for all this gear. I mean, you're a young individual with a lot of responsibility, so emphasize that instead of the KIA part, which you don't want to mention anything with kill in it. Definitely would push some hiring managers away from, kind of ending the interview quite quickly. But definitely you could always emphasize all your management and management skills and your supervision, stuff like that. There's plenty of stuff to cover other than combat action.
Okay, and military skills translators that I use, I know everybody in our office does, whether they are military, they serve themselves or not, just because there's so many different job duties and MOSs out there that it's hard to know them all. So my personal favorite is actually from military.com. I personally love it. I think it's my favorite. But ONET and the Military Crosswalk is another really popular one that I've seen a lot of our veteran transition specialists using.
I definitely use ONET for different types of stuff, even positions, civilian positions. I always go and reference them and find out like the type of skills you need for that job description or position, and you could even kind of like use descriptions already listed on ONET and kind of bend them with numbers and stuff, but make sure again when you're using numbers that they're actually real numbers, not stuff you're just making up.
Alrighty, moving into education, certifications, and any awards. On education, you always want to list your highest achievement which is usually also your most recent first. In this case, it'd be the Master of Arts, followed by the Bachelor of Science. I personally would say that if it's been within the last 5 to 10 years, you're more than welcome to put dates. But again, it's kind of a personal preference thing. Sometimes I feel like it can be a disadvantage to you because they may think that you are fresh out of school and very young. The other disadvantage is that if you say that you received your bachelor's degree in 1986, then they would assume that you're older and more senior, and they frankly may disqualify you just from the fact that they think that they're going to have to pay you more because you're more experienced. I mean, you never want that to hurt you. So my general rule of thumb is that if it's been within the last 5 to 10 years, go ahead and include the dates, but they're not extremely necessary. Certifications are the same way, and again, consistency matters. So if you're using dates on education, then you should use it on your certifications as well. And awards is kind of the hard part. I know that a lot of people hold them near and dear to their heart, as they should, and they are well deserved.
Okay.
However, a lot of those don't translate into the civilian sector, and a lot of people don't know about them. So Bronze Stars, those most people know, Purple Hearts, Medal of Honors, those are all things that civilian sectors, employees, and hiring managers know of, and they're very well respected. But some of the other achievements may not be as well recognized, and if they're not necessary, then you don't need to have them on your resume.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, it's what I've been told is the gimme medals, like the national defense. Technically, everybody that serves is going to gain that. So, I mean, you definitely have to put awards out there that show like some personal achievements that you have done, like a Bronze Star medal one. I mean, even a combat action ribbon, even though it has the word combat in it, it's still something important that should be mentioned. You know? But yeah, I mean, there's stuff that I've kind of spoke to veterans about not mentioning. But I definitely list like the Army Achievement Medals or Army Commendation Medals if you're in the Army or Air Force, and Navy Achievement Medals and stuff like that if you're in the Marine Corps and the Navy. So I think those are all distinguishable in a sense. So.
Absolutely. Alrighty, resume mistakes that automatically dismiss candidates. This is one of my favorites, just because I find it somewhat entertaining. So, first things first, typos. Your computer is not going to pick up if you type in the wrong there, or if you type in the wrong which. So it's really important to get that second set of eyes on your resume, just because I know that even when we create resumes, if you're staring at them for too long, it gets to a point where everything looks right or everything looks wrong. So it's important to kind of step back, take a break in between doing this, and get a second set of eyes on your resume so you can make sure you don't have any of those typos. Another huge mistake, and I have also done this, not tailoring the job, or not tailoring your resume to the job posting. I went through and when I was job hunting, I thought I was invincible, and I thought that everybody was going to snatch me up because I've worked at Google and I've been really involved in all of my academic work, and I have a master's degree, and I thought I was the coolest thing since sliced bread. And unfortunately, I wasn't tailoring my resume. So people didn't know what their whole The best way to be able to tailor that resume is in your summary. The easiest thing that you can do is changing the title that you're looking for. So if you're a logistics professional and you've been in logistics for a long time, but they're looking for a supply chain manager, those, especially if you've been doing supply chain, those are essentially the same thing. You can change that to reflect the job posting, and really utilize that job posting with the things that they're looking for. And don't copy and paste, write them yourself and put them in. But that way it's very clear that you fit and you belong into the role. Not listing skills or areas of expertise, again, it's a lot of work for the hiring manager then to figure out how you fit, and you don't want it to be that hard for them. The easier that they can see that you fit into that job, the easier it'll be to get it. Plagiarism, sentences are copied from the job posting. It's exactly it. It's just not a wise choice. Inappropriate email address, 31% have been automatically dismissed because inappropriate email addresses. And that's just simply not taking the time to do that. It's really important to do that and make sure that you're presenting yourself professionally. Going to the interview and having your resume printed on decorative paper, no pink, purple, blue, yellow paper. You want to go with some good resume paper, cardstock, even regular printer paper, presented well can be absolutely fine. And then lastly is that your resume shouldn't have any crazy photos or borders or anything like that. It's just not necessary, and it's distracting from what your skills really are. So if you do have anything like that on your resume, make sure to take that off. It'll just make you look more professional.
I wanted to add, when you're actually doing that, there's tactics, and sometimes your resumes get pushed through a machine. There's always a keyword in the job description. So a good thing to do is to copy and paste the whole job description in a word searching tool online or a word counting tool, and it can give you a breakdown of the words that were highlighted within that job description. It's always nice to sneak those in into your resume, because it'll tend to get picked up by the machine a little bit better. And yeah, that's all I had to mention. I also wanted to also state that just make sure overall your resume is easily digested, concise, and it can be quickly understandable to the hiring manager. And again, no funny business with having all these different fancy fonts and stuff like that. Just keep it standard, traditional with the type of font that you're using.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally, if you search just word cloud generator, that will help. There will be a few that pop up that can kind of help you find out the keywords. And some job boards at the bottom of their listing will actually list the keywords that the hiring manager themselves have put in there in case other people are searching for it. So, no, I'm not responding. So my computer may be having some more difficulty.
So yeah, some of the do, don't do, you want to target the qualifications for a specific job, and we've mentioned that. You want to definitely tailor, if we can't emphasize that enough. You don't want to list experience that doesn't relate to a logistical, like, manager type of position. You want to make sure that everything you've done in your history, that of course you can show that you were meant for that position. Translate your military skills, we covered that. Use ONET if you need help with that. They have a military translator tool there. And use a professional email. As some of you that came in later, I was mentioning that I've seen a bunch of emails in this organization, from inappropriate ones to food, I guess, soups and sandwiches, 53. Again, that was blended in with a couple numbers so you don't find the individual. So it's like soups and sandwiches, stuff like that. You want to just keep it to like your first name, last name. Try to refrain from using numbers, and use Gmail, of course. I guess it's like the industry standard now. Quantification, definitely hiring managers look to the numbers. List numbers if you can. Don't overly emphasize a number that's not real and make yourself like, managing $3.2 billion, unless you actually did. But definitely make sure you watch your numbers, but use them. Use those symbols provided there, and then spell things out. Don't use abbreviations for anything. It's nice to actually explain exactly what the abbreviation is meant, because as a hiring manager, you already have the odds kind of against you depending on who's the hiring manager. So they don't understand the military occupation you were in, so you want to break it down to them so they actually know. So that's just some of the do's. The don'ts, again, grammar mistakes, misspelling, stuff like that. Always look at it. Even if you're getting it from us and we claim that we had 2 pairs of eyes view it, your name is on this paper. So you go ahead and do the same. Just don't expect like, oh, this is a solid resume. I'm just going to go in and go to the interview without actually looking over it and understanding everything that's on there, because they're going to ask you and test you on, okay, what about this number? And then you have to be ready to explain. So definitely have your pairs of eyes, because your information's on here. It's your lifeline in a sense. Refrain from using I's and me's. Again, no photographs, and I kept saying don't falsify your data. Don't use big numbers that you weren't used to, I guess, dealing with in your actual military occupation and your experience. So that's all I have with you. I know Jordan was having some technical issues. Are you back? He's not back. All right, but I mean this is it. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? You guys feel free to chime in. I know you guys are all on mute right now, but if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them.
Bueller.
Anybody?
Bueller.
Yeah, I can hear you. If you guys have any questions, feel free to send them our way. You see my email there, so copy of that. Walter in the inside.
Hello?
Yep.
Walter,
Yes.
I actually have a question about when you said something about copying and pasting the job description
Yes.
and being able to pick up the keywords that employers are looking for.
Yes.
So how is that again? Can you explain that again, please?
Sure. I want to say like words count along the lines of I've gone on Google and I've placed a job description on there, and then it kind of gives you like a bar graph of all the words that were used, that were emphasized within that job description. So it's always nice to use like the top 2 words that were overly emphasized in the job description and strategically place them within your actual resume or professional summary or in a bullet point. That is not considered, I guess, copy and pasting of the job description. You're actually just putting in one word that kind of blends into whatever your previous job or experience was. So, does that make sense?
Sorry, I was muted. I was thinking that you were explaining some kind of application or something that you could put into, copy and paste it into to find them.
You can find them on Google.
You find what now?
Word counter. Always go on Google search those.
You say word counters?
Yes, word counter. So there's like free available like websites where you kind of get. When I actually use these, I use these tools to kind of count the amount of words and stuff like that when I would write a paper or something like that. But some of them actually give you show you which words you used a lot and stuff like that, so you could reorganize a paper. And same thing with the job descriptions. It picks up like the repetitive words that were used, and those are the ones that you kind of want to pick off and emphasize within your job description or within your resume. Again, it's tailoring, so make sure that if you have a solid resume, just make sure you can easily tailor it to a certain position or a job description following exactly what they want for that position. I hope that makes sense. There's
Yes, thank you.
no problem. Anybody else have any questions? Feel free, we got time, don't be shy. All right, it looks like nobody has any questions. Jason, if you're available.
Yes, thank you all for joining our event. If you missed the beginning of our presentation, I had mentioned that if you're interested in getting personalized assistance from either Walter or Jordan or any of our other 40 or so veteran retention specialists that are spread out around the country, please register for services with us at hireheroesusa.org. click on the Get Registered button, and one of our veteran transition specialists will work with you as soon as next Monday, and they'll help you tailor your resume, help you with your interview skills, help you with your networking skills, and like I said, our services are free, so you have nothing to lose by working with us. So thank you once again to Walter and Jordan, and our next class I think will be either next week or the week after next. Also on resume writing, but it'll be more of a resume practical application where we'll go and take a resume from beginning to end. So what a resume looks like when it comes to us, and then what it looks like when we get done with making the updates and upgrades to make that veteran or spouse a lot more competitive when they put it out there in the job market. So that being said, thank you everyone, and like I said, the video will be posted online, so feel free to watch it if you missed something earlier. Thank you.